Hello everyone and welcome to the first video of 2019. So let me start by wishing you all a Tesla-tastic year ahead of us, and I'm looking forward to everything that Tesla is going to cook up in 2019. From my perspective, I noticed that a lot of questions are still coming, a lot of basic questions are still coming on the different forums. So I wanted to start a new playlist about the basics of driving a Tesla, especially now since a lot of new EV owners will come into play. Since the Model 3 is now open to everyone in Europe as well, we will start getting those delivered in the next couple of months, and a lot of people that are not familiar with different basic concepts of driving an electric car, they will have a lot of questions, and with this series I hope to be able to answer at least a couple of them. So today, the first one in the series we're going to start with is supercharging. And I see a lot of questions on the forums. I see a lot of the same questions coming back, like why is my supercharging slow, for example. And these are the questions that I'm hoping to answer for you in this particular video. So let's get on with it. Now, one thing we need to realize immediately is that the temperature of the battery has a huge influence on how fast your supercharging actually is. So if we look at the current battery temperature, we see that we have limited regen. That means that if I let go of the accelerator, then the regen will not go to the full 60 kilowatts that it can actually do, because the battery cannot handle the heat at this point. So a couple of things you can do to heat up the battery is, well, first of all, is driving, right? That helps because it consumes energy from the battery, and that of course means that you draw heat from the battery, or you generate heat in the battery. Another way to do that is also to accelerate and use regen, right? And use that a lot, and you will see that the dotted lines, you alternate that, the dotted lines will actually start going down a bit. So I'm still using regen here to the maximum. As soon as that starts to taper off, and it is safe to do so, of course, accelerate again, generate a lot of heat by accelerating, and then you again generate heat by using regen. Another way of doing that is if you have a performance car, then you have an option to have ludicrous mode and or insane if you have a P85D or a P90D without ludicrous. Then you have an option for max battery power, and if you tap on max battery power, then you will see that it will create a higher temperature than is comfortable for the battery. But that means that power from the car is being drawn or converted to the heater for the battery. So the Tesla car has a 6 kilowatt heater in total, but it can help, and I've used that to enable max battery power while driving towards the supercharger when I know that I only need to drive for like 10 or 15 minutes towards the supercharger. So that is definitely one way of creating heat in the battery, and to make sure that your supercharger, or when you arrive at the supercharger, you will start with a higher rate. So now we've plugged in at the supercharger, and you see we are only getting 20 kilowatts because the battery is still cold. Now gradually the supercharger, by charging at lower speeds, will heat up the battery, and gradually we will see that the charge rate will go up to a decent amount normally. So this is all normal, and it's just because the battery is still cold at this point. Also, something you need to be aware of, this is not a supercharger. This is a supercharger. So these are the transformer cabins with the huge transformer behind it. And these ones specifically, they are 135 kilowatts. What you see there are stalls, right? And the stalls are paired. So what that means is, if you look at the bottom of the stalls, you will see 5A on the left side, 5B on the right side. So those two stalls are paired to one supercharger. Now, being paired to a supercharger, that means that they actually share the load. So I'm at 5A right now. If somebody would come at 5B with a warm battery, then instead of me getting about 25 kilowatts at the moment, that the other guy would get with a warm battery, he would get like 100 kilowatts of charging. Now, if I'm here first with a warm battery, then I will take, let's say, 115 kilowatts of power. The next one that will arrive at the stall and takes the B stall, or if I'm at the B stall, takes the A stall, so basically the coupled stall or the paired stall, then he will get the rest. So the remainder is not a lot. He will get like, I will go down with 5 to 10 kilowatts on my side, and he would get like 35, 30, maybe 40 kilowatts. And that's not a fast charge. So it is still amazing to me how many Tesla drivers, even if there is many places where they can stand many stalls that are free, they are still pulling into the stall next to me, not knowing that they are going to get a slow charge because I was here first. So usually I step out, I notify the people, and they are like, oh really? Okay, I didn't know that. So hopefully with this video you guys know that up front. So this is also a very common sight as superchargers because of that pairing system, is that people who know the system will always leave one in between if the pairs are AB, AB, AB. And then you see all these Teslas parked with one car per actual supercharger, and the other stall, the paired stall, being free. Now in the meantime, we are a good, let's say 15 minutes in, and we are already at 59 kilowatts. So the heat in the battery is actually making sure that we are able to get more charge into the battery. Now, a third thing we need to know is that your rate of charge is also depending on your state of charge. So if you start with a low battery, then it will actually go up quite a bit. If the battery is warm, of course, you will get like 115, 120 sometimes. That's the maximum you can get with a Model X or a Model S. We don't know yet for a Model 3 how far it will actually be able to go. But with the current state of superchargers, 120 kilowatts is the maximum you get. With the lower end cars like the 75, the 60, you will not get that 120 kilowatts because the battery cannot take it. Anyways, so state of charge. If you start with a low state of charge, you will get a high charge rate. If you are above 50%, I think with the 100D and the P100D, you get close to 100 kilowatts or above 100 kilowatts even, up until 60% of your battery charge. After that, it will start to taper off gradually and going down. So what that means is it's usually compared to pouring a glass of water as quickly as possible, but without spilling a drop. So what you do at first is you pour a lot in, you really go in with everything you can, and as soon as the glass is about half full, you start tapering off because you cannot spill anything. In battery terms, if we overcharge the battery, we would damage the battery, and that's not something that we want, of course. So the same with your smartphone. If you charge your phone, charging from 0 to 80% takes as long as from 80 to 100% because of the protection of the battery. So yeah, your state of charge definitely matters. Up until 50%, you're usually quite good in supercharging speeds. After that, of course there is the tapering off, and that depends on which car you have, how fast it actually tapers off. Now, being at a paired stall also has some implications, and the fact that your car tapers off also has some implications. That means that if I'm here first, I'm getting 150 kilowatts. If the second guy takes the B stall, then he gets, let's say, 35 kilowatts, right? But as soon as my car starts tapering off, his car will increase. So by the time that I'm down to 50 kilowatts, he will have 70 kilowatts, for example. And by the time that I'm almost done charging and I'm down to like 30 kilowatts, he will get the full charge of 115 or 120 kilowatts for his car. If he would arrive at that point, of course, or if he's already there, you would see that mine is dropping and his charge speed is rising. So yeah, if you look for a stall at the supercharger, look at the numbers, because they're not always arranged in A, B, A, B, A, B. Sometimes they are like A, 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 B, 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 right? So look at the numbers and find a stall pair that nobody's charging on, and then take a stall from that one, instead of taking one at random and maybe being paired up with somebody else, resulting in a lower charge rate and thus a longer supercharging time. We're now half an hour into the charge and we are at 88 kilowatts. So the battery is more or less at a good temperature also. But we'll continue to monitor that, and the way we can do that is, because I have a performance car, I can enable Ludicrous Plus mode, which is always cool, and I say yes, bring it on. And from that point on the dash, you can see here on the left, right, that's the temperature gauge for the battery, and right now that is about 25 degrees, I think. The degrees are only there when you actually drive the car, but we will see that purple bar going up the more we charge. So as you can see by the battery indicator here, we exceeded the 50%, we're close to 60%, I think, and right now we are starting to go down in kilowatts. So we reached the maximum of like 89 kilowatts, and now we're going back down to 84, 83, and it will gradually go down all the way until we are at the 90% level. Now this is normal, and we have 5 cars here at the moment, and during daytime there's some industry around here that is still working. So yeah, 90 kilowatts, it's not too bad, starting with a cold battery pack. So now that we are at around 85% state of charge, I've enabled the Ludicrous Plus mode again, because otherwise, I've disabled it because otherwise it would have started heating the battery additionally. So I just disabled it to let the charging process itself warm the battery. And if we look again now at the gauge here, then you definitely see that the temperature, the purple line, is a lot higher now than it was before. So clear indication that charging the car using the supercharger actually puts in a lot of energy in the battery as well. So here we are, nearing the 90%. We've got like 3 more kilometers to go to get to the 90%, and you clearly see that the charge has gone down to 37 kilowatts. So yeah, that's the state of charge now, controlling the amount of power that can still go in there, the tapering off that I discussed earlier when filling up that glass of water, right? This is what's happening now, and this is completely normal. So the higher your state of charge, the lower your charge rate will be. Okay, so time for a conclusion here and the lessons learned. So there are 4 items or 4 things you need to keep in mind when supercharging. Number 1 is that it all depends on the temperature of your battery. So if your battery is cold, your supercharging speed will be slow at first because it needs to heat up the battery, because a cold battery cannot handle that much current or that much heat. Secondly, your state of charge matters of course as well. The higher your state of charge, the lower the charge rate you will get. So try to arrive at the supercharger with between 10 to 15% state of charge left, and then you will get the fastest charging speed and the fastest time to get going again. Number 3, that's the stall pairing. So remember I said one supercharger usually has 2 stalls attached to it. So when you arrive at the supercharger, find a stall pair that is completely free and then take one of those to get the best supercharging speeds. Otherwise you may share a supercharger with somebody else, resulting in slower charging speeds. And lastly, of course, number 4 is that there are external factors and not every supercharger is equal. There's a lot of power that needs to go through the transformer and needs to be delivered to the supercharger site, and it's not always possible due to external factors such as heavy loads because of industry, a lot of other cars being parked and already taking up a lot of load from the grid, or basically the grid just not being capable of supplying power for that many superchargers at the same time. So yeah, hopefully you found this useful, and if you do, give it a thumbs up and subscribe using this button here, and don't forget to click that little bell icon so you don't miss out on any new videos. I will be doing more of these 101 videos to get you started, especially for the new EV people. So yeah, make sure you subscribe, and as always, thank you for watching. See you guys next time. Bye bye.